Welcome back to ADHD Skills with Jess and Alex. Jess, what are we talking about today?
So I'm having some trouble with sleep. Specifically, when I go to sleep and I'm laying in bed, my mind keeps racing. For some
Mm.
reason, I can't turn it off. So I was wondering, do you have any tips, tricks, or tools on how to help just turn my mind off and how to help me get into that sleep?
Ah, very important topic
Yes.
because sleep provides a crazy amount of benefits. So I'm glad you're thinking about this. I'm glad you're looking into making your sleep better. The first question I have for you is what's on your mind when you go to sleep? You don't have to get into too many specifics, but like what's going on when your head hits the pillow?
So usually what goes on is I do a replay of my day and what I could have done differently. For example, like situations with clients, situations with like making dinner, just different things like that. Just replay my day, or like, I could have fit in going to the gym, but I didn't, right? So kind of figuring what I could have done to change my day a little bit, or like to-do lists for the next day.
Mm.
And I have in the past written down my to-do list before I go to bed to help clear my brain, but I feel like sometimes I still will be thinking about the list or thinking about because I'm afraid I'm going to forget about it
Mm.
rather than trusting the fact that I wrote it down. So I think it's something a little bit. So those are kind of what's going through my mind.
Yeah, and I think your instincts are right on there with doing some writing before bed.
Hmm.
Writing stuff down, trying to get all the stuff out of your mind.
Yes.
Setting goals for the next day, saying, "Okay, here's where I could have done better today." So
Hmm.
all of that is good to get out of your head before your head hits the pillow. Now, what about when you write it down, but it still doesn't leave your brain? That is ultimately the tricky part. So, what's
Yes.
going on when your head hits the pillow is nothing. There's nothing happening. It is a very boring part of the day. So, your brain, which is always seeking stimulation, especially for those of us with ADHD, is gonna like jump on things to wake it up, get it going. So the brain's natural instinct is to think and get things going, especially for those of us with ADHD. So, how do we slow it down and get to sleep? That's the $1 million question. So, your brain is going to focus on something. People with ADHD often, or people in general, often think that people with ADHD don't focus. That's not true. We're always focusing on something. Is it the right thing? No, not always. Sometimes it is. So the situation of trying to fall asleep comes down to what am I focusing on as I go to sleep? Is it something that energizes me, gets me going, wakes me up? Or is it something that winds us down and lulls us into sleep? So, what I do to get my brain to shut off at night is I listen to a podcast. It's a podcast designed for people who are falling asleep. So the podcast host even says, you don't have to listen to this podcast. But the idea behind it is I'm listening to something that's interesting enough to get my attention, but
Hmm.
not so interesting that it energizes me. So this could be a podcast designed to help you fall asleep. It could be a podcast episode that you enjoy, that you've heard many times, but it could also be an audiobook.
Hmm.
And I would recommend an audiobook where you're not trying to figure out what's going to happen next. So, something you've probably heard before or read before. So, if it's a book you've read many times, let's say it's The Hobbit, great book to fall asleep to because the way the narration goes is very
Hmm.
calming. And yes, there are perils in that book, but it's very calm, right? The way Tolkien describes things is very neat and calming and well done. Basically, what I'm saying is, what can you focus on to help you get your mind off things that are going to energize you? What can you focus on? Is it an audiobook? Is it a podcast? Is it, I don't know. There could be more options out there. The idea of counting sheep isn't about doing something boring, it's about doing something interesting. It's about doing something that's going to get your interest, but not energize it. So counting is a little boring. That has worked for some people. My guess is it doesn't work for people with ADHD because you go one sheep, two sheep, blue sheep, red sheep. Oh no, I'm Dr. Seussing this. So, my question for you, Jess, is what's going to help you fall asleep? What's going to help you get your mind off of your previous day or the next day and help you focus on this is calming, this is relaxing, it's time to shut my brain off and go to sleep?
So I really like the idea of listening to a book, an
Mm,
audiobook at night, especially because you can immediately when you said that, I immediately thought of a soothing narrator, right?
mm,
So like because you can have different narrators that their voices are just more calming. Also just the volume. So having the volume on the lower side, so it's like more of like, just like a sound, but you're still kind of intrigued because you can hear words. So it's more, so I kind of like that as like, kind of like a white noise, but like you're still listening. So you're kind of being
mhm,
a little bit active, but not active enough where you feel like engaged, where you have to stay up to listen to it. So I kind of think of it as like a bedtime story. So like
mm.
when you were younger, like your parents are telling you a bedtime story, and then you kind of naturally like fall asleep or pretend to fall asleep. It could be like that, but I'm actually gonna fall asleep because the voice is soothing. So that I immediately thought of listening to an audiobook. So I'm gonna definitely try that. I think that'll be pretty really cool.
And I hope you find the right book.
Yes, for sure. I definitely think that that's a big what you said definitely too kind of hits home as a book you read before. I think that that's really because also what's going to happen. It's not like you're going to cuz I'd be afraid I'd miss what happens. But if I've already read it before, I'm not going to miss what happens. I know what happens. So I think that that'll be definitely something that I'm going to want to try out and definitely see if it works. So thanks for definitely helping me out. I think that this was great. Some great suggestions and definitely going to try it out. And if the book doesn't work, I definitely like the idea of the podcast as well.
So, yeah, I would definitely invite our viewers to leave a comment below with what you're going to listen to as you fall asleep. Is it going to be a podcast? If so, which one? Is it going to be an audiobook? If so, which one? So, find something that interests you but doesn't excite you. Put it in
Hmm.
the comments below. Jess, any final thoughts?
I would just like to say thank you. I think this was really helpful, and I would just be really interested to see what people have to say, and people recommend as well. I think that that would be helpful too to kind of grow and figure out what podcasts are out there, what other books are really interesting, but hold my attention for a little bit, but don't excite me. I like really like that. So definitely remember that, everyone, when trying to fall asleep, something that doesn't necessarily excite you, but hold your attention for a little bit so you can doze off. So this is very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for watching. She's Jess. I'm Alex. Have a great day.